Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this webinar around powering a unified security operations. So just before we get into the webinar itself, here's just a brief introduction of how things are going to work this morning. So we are talking about powering a unified security operations. And today we're diving into the world of that extended detection and response, exploring how Defender for XDR empowers organizations to detect, investigate, and respond to advanced threats across endpoints, entities, and cloud apps, as well as email. We're also going to look briefly at Sentinel, and then my colleague Alex is going to take you through a demo as well and some details of the unified security operations platform. There will be a Q&A at the end, and there will also be an overview of our new product, which is the XDR Rapid Protect product. So just to start, introduce ourselves. So I'm Anna Webb and I'm Head of Global Security Operations here at Cocho, and I'm going to be presenting first, and then we also have Alex.
Good morning, everyone. Alex Kingston, one of the senior security consultants as part of our professional service team.
Thanks, Alex. So let's dive straight in. So typically these days, we see that the odds are against defenders in the security world. There's on average 1,287 password attacks happening every second, which is absolutely phenomenal. And it can take just 1 hour and 12 minutes for an attacker to actually get access to your private data if you do fall victim to a phishing email. Unfortunately, we are in our security operations center seeing more and more of these attacks that are started. Sorry, the slides are. That are started via the phishing campaign or the phishing email that come in with users clicking on URLs when they shouldn't do. Couple that with the fact that there is a 3.5 million global shortage of skilled workers. It does make it very, very difficult for companies to actually have the right level of staffing within their environment in order to protect themselves against these attacks. The nation state sponsored attacks, well, these are increasing in sophistication. Again, we're seeing that security operations teams are having to protect across quite a diverse global digital estate, and the increasing cyber threats are very, very prominent. Things like third-party supplier chain, that is still prevalent as well when it comes to being attacked. It's not just that you're secure, do you know that your third parties are also secure? The frequency and sophistication of the attacks are growing as well, and it doesn't matter what the size of your organization or the industry you're in, you are a target. I hear regularly clients sort of saying, well, we're only small and we don't actually do anything that's of major significance, but believe me, if you are harboring data of some variety, attackers want to get their hands on it. It's a challenge that we all struggle within IT security. It's not just our customers, it's ourselves, it's others who provide those managed security services as well. And, the challenges are significant for your security operations teams. They're sort of tasked with defending your extended estate. And because that digital estate has grown, the volume of security data has also grown. The fact that 76% of organizations have reported an increase in that. And much of it is coming from the cloud, but we do still have legacy on-premise systems that provide that information as well. And the volume is just going to keep growing Data is 100% the fuel for machine learning models. You know, the machine learning has to get that information from somewhere, and it's become so critical to that threat detection. And the models need to be, you know, need to have more and more signals and more diverse signals in order to be able to build their view of what is going on from a security perspective. In shoring up defences, enterprises have deployed dozens of security products. You see security products across the board. You know, things covering your endpoint, things covering your identity, things covering what you've got in the cloud, what you've got on-prem. And in isolation, these products can create a high false positive rate and a poor response prioritization because, you know, you have all this noise that you're having to deal with and nothing really fits together the way that it should do. And part of the reason that these alerts then fall through the cracks is because of that massive shortage of security professionals that we actually mentioned earlier on. So, you know, how are we going to improve this? Well, one of the things is to look at, you know, what are the common logs that are ingested, particularly into Sentinel. And, you know, in the previous slide, we said that because of data being the fuel for machine learning models, it's become so critical to threat detection, and those models needing that more diverse signal. The result is that more and more organizations are reporting that nearly half of their alerts, or 44%, are never actually investigated. So they're pulling all this data in and it's creating alerts, but only, you know, 44% of those alerts are actually, you know, never investigated. So there's a notion that always ingesting everything is the way to go. And many solutions and services actually offer an all-you-can-send approach to log collection, which, you know, on the surface sounds fantastic. But is it really, though, in reality? We know that not all logs are created equal, and we can see from the slide that some produce a higher volume of data. Firewalls are always top of this list, but value-wise for threat detection, they are not always something to consider as a primary focus, especially when it comes to things like deny logs. There are scenarios where I would want to see certain information where access was denied. For instance, if it was, you know, a constant barrage of the same IP address trying to contact. But in general, if something's been denied at the firewall, it hasn't got in. Do I actually need to know about it? But imagine if you had all those deny logs flowing into your SIEM, generating those alerts, mostly false positive, and because of that overall noise, you actually happen to miss that one alert that got through that was really, really important. It does happen, unfortunately, but by being wise with your log ingestion, you can at least give your security team or those managing your security a fighting chance. Alert blindness, as it's known, is very much a common ailment amongst security teams. And yes, there are scenarios for legislative and auditive reasons, particularly that logs may need to be kept for, say, 12 months or 5 years. But if those logs are not parsed or there's no corresponding correlation or analytic rules to pull the information together and generate an alert or an incident when a certain condition or threshold is met, what exactly is the reason behind the ingestion? Similarly, pulling that volume of data out of your environment, so, you know, sending it across the wire to the company or the managed service that are going to look after your logs, that can create a serious dent in your bandwidth availability as well. And then there's the question of, once your data's left your domain, where is it? Who's got it? How safe is it? Who has access to it? And I mean physically as well as online. So, you know, how do you get it back if you need it? And how easy is that going to be? It's just something really to think about. So let's talk a little bit about Microsoft Defender XDR. I'm not going to labour the point on this because Alex has got some wonderful slides coming up that I think will pull all this together. So Defender XDR covers the 4 main elements really of Defender for Identity, Defender for Endpoint, Defender for Office 365, and then Defender for Cloud Apps. So it gives you that cross-domain experience, pulling the power of these four elements together and helping you build a unified defense against things like theft of your identities, compromised assets. And it also allows you to understand where your vulnerabilities lie, and it lets you respond to incidents in that single portal, so that single pane of glass. It's designed to help speed up response, improve efficiency of your security operations, as well as extending coverage to the wider areas of APIs and connectors. So it does provide a very good overall defense mechanism. So like I said, it's a unified pre and post-breach enterprise defense suite that natively coordinates detection, prevention, investigation, and response across your endpoints, identities, email, and applications, and provides you that integrated protection against those ever-increasing sophisticated attacks. Availability for the tool is pretty good. So it's available to organizations with Office 365 or Microsoft 365 Enterprise, Education, or Government subscriptions. And those with a tenant in the commercial or public cloud also have availability of it. And then any type of US government community cloud as well is able to have availability of Defender XDR. So then you have Microsoft Sentinel, and this offers a new modern approach to SIEM. It's also classed as a SOAR tool, so it's that security orchestration and automation remediation, not just and response, not just pulling in those signals. It actually allows you to do a lot more with automation, machine learning, and it really is a powerful tool that's cloud native, powered by AI, and it helps you optimize your security operations. Given that it's a cloud native tool, it empowers you to be able to scale with flexibility. Doesn't mean that you can't use it for on-prem. It just means that as a tool itself, it is able to scale quite easily because it is cloud native. And it eliminates that time then and money spent on managing underlying infrastructure. So you don't have to have tin on the ground. It's able to detect complex and ever-evolving threats across massive volumes of low fidelity signals. So where you're pulling that information in, it's very, very sort of low level, but it pulls all that together and it's able to build a picture of what is actually happening within your environment. And it uses the built-in machine learning, which is developed by Microsoft security experts to do that. Gives you everything you need to expedite incident response, allows you to streamline investigations. There's robust incidents. A lot of information is contained in the incidents that come out of Sentinel. And basically, it gives you everything you need. And with these efficiency gains, Microsoft Sentinel gives you that ability to finally be proactive, something that we know that clients are looking for when it comes to finding and stopping threats. And because it includes robust threat hunting tools as well, it helps you get ahead of attackers. So before I hand you over to Alex, I just would like, if you're happy to put in the chat, what's your current SecOps setup? What does it look like? Are you using Sentinel and Defender, one or t'other or both? If you're able to respond in the chat, that would be lovely, so we can get an idea of how many of you are actually using these tools, or maybe other tools that are helping secure your estate. Anyone willing to share in the chat? Okay, we shall move on then. If you do feel like sharing, then please just pop information into the chat. That'll be perfectly fine. Okay, Alex, I'll hand over to you.
Thank you. So, as Anna has pointed out, a lot of organizations got a lot of security tools. There is a different school of thought, whether you're putting all eggs in one basket and you're using one vendor for everything, or you're trying to separate different sectors of security to different vendors. But in the end of the day, on average, an organization has 80 plus various of security tools. And even if you use Microsoft for everything, as you can imagine, you still can classify each of those defenders as its own security solution. In the end of the day, what we will try to achieve is a unified defense. Every organization need to ensure that in the end of the day, no matter if it's a single vendor or collection of vendors, that the tools are actually collaborate between themselves, because the nature of attacks becoming more and more complex, and we need to ensure that the right telemetry gets shared between different security solutions to ensure that you can respond to various types of attacks in timely manner and with the right decision based on information presented to you. And hopefully what we'll show you today will support those goals. So if you want to go to the next slide. So let's start first understanding where we are today. Today we've got what we call Microsoft XDR with unified defense. And that's a combination between Siemens SOAR tool and specifically Microsoft in this case, and Defender XDR, which is collection of defenders that are responsible of defending a particular entity, whether it's device, cloud application, on-prem identities, or emails and anything that comes through emails. And the way they currently connect is in various combinations. The most basic one is you share telemetry, which is alert and incidents with Sentinel and vice versa. Sentinel receives that and becomes a one pane glass for all your incidents and alerts, regardless where they come from, whether they come from Microsoft XDR, Defender for Cloud, Defender for IoT, and potentially you can recreate incidents from other portals through a little bit more complex setup. But because it's all Microsoft tools, they all natively integrate and share incidents and alert between themselves. In addition, you can take one step forward and actually don't just share incidents and alert, you can share the raw data that comes from each of the defender. And we can see that on the left-hand side of the slide, with the yellow connectors rather than green. This provides a more enriched information to Microsoft Sentinel, which means in addition to Defender XDR doesn't just share incidents anymore, which means it's not just simply recreating incidents it has found in Microsoft Sentinel. It actually now provides that raw information from each of the Defender to Sentinel, and Sentinel takes the extra capability of analyzing that data and collaborating with the rest of the data that you're ingesting in Sentinel, and machine learning and user entity behavior analytics and all the amazing things that Sentinel does to potentially capture things that maybe Defender XDR didn't pick up. Because remember, Defender XDR only catches information based on how many defenders you have, and its visibility only within where it's deployed for its particular purposes. Whereas Microsoft Sentinel has 360 view of everything, because it can ingest any type of data regardless of its location or vendor. And by you enriching that analysis with your Defender data alongside with third party provides a much greater visibility and analysis tool. So if we go on to the next slide, Anna, we'll actually have a look at how that works in a current setup when it comes to human-operated ransomware. It's a really good example, because as you can imagine, ransomware types of attacks actually consist of a lot of well-known, much smaller vulnerability and breaches that actually, and it's chain of attack leads usually to ransomware, and obviously ransomware is everywhere right now on in the media. So it is important to understand if those tools can actually capture something like lateral movement that leads to ransomware. So if we go next slide, we'll start having a look at that. So we can see that we are in Sentinel portal, and we can see that it has flagged to us that there is a multi-stage incident involving privilege escalation in one of the tools. Interestingly, we can see that the product name is Microsoft Defender 365. This means that actually it wasn't Sentinel first that captured it, but actually Microsoft Defender 365. And it has shared that incident and alert with Microsoft Sentinel with the connectivity. On the right-hand side, we can see that because it's multi-stage, we've got various components of Defender that worked together and identify this attack. And we can see the product alert product names. We've got Defender for endpoint, so which means we know something has happened on a device, some malicious activity. There is a 365 Defender. That means there is a combination of Office 365, either through emails or Defender for Identity, a user-based activity, and then you've got Defender for Identity, as I have already mentioned. So potentially the attack might have even started on-prem or going into on-prem environment. And we can see how all those products came together with their own specific, unique insight, and the system has collaborated those alerts and incidents in order to determine there is a multi-stage incident leading to privilege escalation. And we can see all the tactics. So because it's multi-stage, we expect to see a lot of micro attack tactics, and it should give you an idea at least where potentially on the lateral movement this current attack is, at what point has it been captured, and you can potentially predetermine what would be the next stages, because at the end of the day, everything follows the same pattern when it comes to lateral movement. And we can see there's a lot of entities, 141. So how do you go about and actually review it? Well, actually, there are several of options. Yes, we know that this incident comes from Defender 365, but before we go and move ourselves into that portal, we need to understand what can we do inside Sentinel. So Anna, if you to the next slide. So this slide is what we call an investigate slide. And actually, this is a visual representation. Yes, there is always an option to jump straight into the KQL portal inside Sentinel and start using KQL commands in order to start digging more deeper. But not everyone is KQL expert, especially when it comes to very small security team. They potentially don't have time to train themselves up in KQL. That's not a problem at all, because Sentinel provides a more GUID-like experience when it comes to analyzing, triaging, and responding to incident. And what we're seeing in front of us, it's one of those methods. This actually presents a visual pathway of attack, how it was developed in a timeline manner, which entities were attacked, and potentially where it potentially can go further. And from this overview over here, it's not just a visual view. You can click on each of those entities or potentially each of those alerts and gain more insight information. If you want to take it further and actually start responding, at this stage, we potentially might conduct what we would call a containerization of the incident, which means we will start blocking those accounts or running antivirus on the servers or rebooting and shutting down device and removing it potentially from corporate network. And all is possible from this overview by clicking on the users and devices and actually running playbooks and automation from Sentinel that are potentially being pre-configured by your organization in your Sentinel with set actions that I have mentioned. So after we conducted all this, we know what type of attack potentially it looks like, where it's my heading, what its nature. We want to start digging deeper. And actually, remember what I said, this incident and alert came from Defender 365. So we want to go into the source of this incident. So Anna, if you want to click next slide. And we will actually arrive in Defender 365 incident portal. And actually, we can see exactly that name of the incident that we've seen in Sentinel. And actually now we see a little bit more insight, because now we see a dedicated alerts. And those alerts, as you can imagine, has been put together. There is much more telemetry between them, but the system is not trying to overwhelm you yet with all that information. It put together a well thought and concise information as to what happened, at what point, under which category and which Defender tool was responsible to capturing this in a timely manner. And as you can see, even though there is 8 different alerts, it's all became under one incident. But as you can imagine, due to the complexity of it, as we will start digging more deeper, there is much more information in it. But as you can see on the right-hand side, it's all about to ensure you have actionable intelligence and information from those tools. In order to understand what happened and to understand how to respond. So in this case, we'll start digging much deeper. We see all the alerts. If we go on to the next slide, we'll actually click on it to expand it more and actually start dealing directly with incident. And the information that we have, again, we've got this MITRE ATT&CK tactics. It is important to understand MITRE ATT&CK because in the end of the day, the way it was designed is to understand different stages of lateral movement, different techniques and tactics that potentially have been executed. So you can potentially predetermine what might be the next lateral movement, because if we're hitting some of them, there's always going to be the final one. Or potentially just to understand the tactics and the goal of this attack. It might not end up with ransomware, might end up with just data exfiltration. But nonetheless, we can see different MITRE attacks. We can see the most important entities at this stage that has been compromised and involved in this. And they've been broken down for us by devices, users, and mailboxes. So we don't have to go and review if our organization is 12,000 plus entities and users and devices. We know exactly which ones to concentrate on and that are currently in question. And most importantly, we can see the timeline. The time is important, as we have seen previously from Anna's slide. On the mean time is 1 hour 25 minutes, right? So and there is many more types of attacks that potentially take even less time than that. So we need to ensure that we respond in a timely manner and we understand at what hour or even minute we're at, that potentially the attacker has laterally moved somewhere else. So we've got the timeline. So let's start digging deeper. We can see a lot of PowerShell execution that is happening. So if we go into the next slide, what we can actually see is we can actually start digging deeper. What exactly happened on that device? And we can go as detailed as to see exactly the PowerShell command that was executed. And we can see in this case, we see the device in the top left corner. We can see the domain name, exactly the user that potentially belongs this device to, or potentially this account was already compromised. And in that case, with that device and that user, we can see exactly the PowerShell commands that were executed. As you can imagine, those PowerShell commands has been zapped by Defender 365, which means they have been detonated in containerized environments, so they're safe. Obviously, don't rerun them, but you can obviously copy paste them and use them as evidence for your triaging. And it is important to have this granular understanding because sometimes when it comes to triaging, you can actually determine the types of attacks and purpose based on exactly what has been executed. So it is a very important insight information what had happened on this device. So we can suddenly see how we have started with a much bigger picture in Microsoft Sentinel. And we understood there is a problem at a very potentially big scale. And within a couple of minutes, we went all the way down to the device to understand actually where it potentially all started with which PowerShell executed command. So again, very beautiful, I would say, collaboration of unified defense, how each tools came together from the very little tiny alert of granular stage all the way down to a bigger picture of how your organization might have been impacted. So if we go into the next stage, next slide, please. So where we are right now, so I have already explained, there is a variety of tools that Microsoft has been releasing, starting with threat intelligence. There is a lot of native threat intelligence that your tools have been enriched with, whether it's Defender for Endpoint and Defender for XDR. You've got the new Defender for Exposure Management, and all that is available under your licenses. In addition to that, you can purchase Microsoft tools such as Defender for Threat Intelligence to take your threat intelligence even further. Then we've got, as already been mentioned a few seconds ago, is exposure management, which is a new add-on inside your Defender XDR portal that gives you that attack path of your entities, where you can create different goals, such as ransomware protection, or you can start analyzing the attack pathways to your critical infrastructure, the critical that you determine what's critical for you. And it provides a more holistic and visual understanding of vulnerabilities in your environment. Then we obviously have Microsoft's human source solution, which is Sentinel, with all of its amazing capabilities of monitoring, responding, storing alerts, user entity behavior analytics, which learns and understands patterns and behavior of different entities. Then we've got XDR, which is a collection of defenders that protect certain certain entities based on the design and setup that you have created. And of course, a big recent announcement of AI in this particular case, given it's Microsoft, it's obviously Copilot, particularly in our case that we're talking about security, it's Copilot for security. And as you can imagine, it's still a lot. It's quite overwhelming to understand how all this, yes, they're still all operate. Each of those solutions on its own is very powerful. Yes, they can collaborate between themselves because they all under this Microsoft umbrella, Microsoft environment of unified defense. But again, going back to the first slide, that's still a lot of different tools out there that you have to keep tabs on and try to organize and operate. So if we go to the next slide. What Microsoft is decided is actually, yes, it's still a lot and we need to try to simplify all that, which means moving from unified defense to a unified security operations, which is a little bit different, where tools don't just simply share telemetry potentially between themselves. And we have seen during our slided demo is that I still had to move between different portals. Yes, I started in Sentinel, but I had to then switch and go into the Defender XDR, which means, again, understanding of different portals. Yes, the information was very well put together and collaborated and shared, but it's still a lot of different portals to move between and try to remember what have we learned in one portal into another. And then, yes, Sentinel has this amazing GUID visual representation, potentially Defender for XDR. It has its own version of that, potentially with a little bit less abilities to act upon certain things. Then we've got user entity behavior on one side, but we don't have on the other. However, we've got amazing collaboration of alerts that we've seen in XDR, which Sentinel potentially doesn't do it out of box unless you tune it in. So there's still a lot of disparity between the tools, even though they do work together. So we're on a journey to achieve a unified security operation. So if we go on to the next slide. The goal is, how do we bring all this together? And Microsoft decided that there shouldn't be disparity between capabilities of different security tools. And they have introduced, I would say around 2 months now, 3 months ago, what we call unified security operations. This means Microsoft Defender for XDR and Sentinel don't just link between themselves, they will actually merge into one portal. That means all the capabilities of Microsoft Sentinel and all the capabilities of Microsoft Defender XDR are not limited to their own. Those capabilities will be shared across the data and telemetry that Microsoft Sentinel collects and Defender for XDR collects in one singular portal. So which means you will be triaging, investigating, and making decisions about all types of incidents, no matter where they come from, all from the single portal, and you're not limited by capabilities of one tool or the other. Those capabilities will be applied to all those incidents and alerts. And as you can imagine, all that will be backed up by Microsoft Copilot for security if needed to, if your organization actually in a process of start deploying and using it. So let's have a look what that shows us from the back end. So if we go into the next slide. So as you can see currently, we've got one data set for Defender for XDR, another data schema for Microsoft Sentinel, and they all have its own security analytic capabilities, analytic experiences. Again, they were different, right? Yes, they all can ingest the same type of data. They can share if you choose to that data between different platforms, but in the end of the day, it was separate. So Microsoft decided by merging them to merge the data sets, and that's kind of where the biggest progress is. So if we're going to the next slide, we'll actually see that the unified security operation is a combination between two. It's a singular data set which combines in total going from 35 tables in Defender XDR, 120 tables in Sentinel, which now in combination creates just under 160 table schema, all controlled through KQL and all analyzed through the amazing security analytics capabilities and analytical expertise, and again, all backed by Microsoft Sentinel, which will in nature create for us a true unified security operation. It's not unified anymore because we can share the data between different tools and it's all readable, but actually because it's all truly unified now under one portal. So if we go next slide. So how is that getting achieved? So everyone in, because right now it's in a public preview, all organizations will see this little tab, which means get your Sentinel inside XDR into one place. So rather than sending data from XDR into Sentinel, where Microsoft decided to twist it around. So we're now gonna kind of merge Microsoft Sentinel inside XDR portal. We know XDR portal already got all the defenders under one portal, and now we're taking the next step where we'll have a Sentinel tab in there. Now, that does not mean you don't need Sentinel anymore. Sentinel still stays an important component that you need to configure. You need to think about all the slides that Anna has mentioned previously in terms of data ingestion and everything, which data you're going to ingest, how it will get analyzed. But now all that is getting merged into Microsoft Defender XDR. And you need to still use the connector, which is Defender XDR connector, which basically syncs in incidents and alerts, because they still need to share that telemetry for Sentinel to send its own incidents and alerts into XDR and vice versa. And then you just go ahead and connect the workspace. As it currently stands, you can only connect one workspace, which means only one Sentinel into Defender XDR. If we go next slide. We can see, going back to this idea of merging the tables, this advanced hunting, which brings us tabling schema, is actually, again, it's going to increase to nearly 160. So we're not limited anymore with our KQL capabilities. There were always limitations. Obviously, in Defender XDR, it was only 36 to 48 tables based on how many defenders you have, and you're only limited to what defenders can do and see. Microsoft Sentinel, yes, it had much more tables, which is 123 to 130 tables. A lot of them were dedicated to third-party tools and data. Some of it, only limited amount of tables came from Defender XDR, and we've seen them. There was only, I think, in total 15 tables, so only half of the table schema from XDR that came to Sentinel. Well, that's not a limitation anymore. All those tables come together into one portal by creating a true unified data collection and analysis tool consisting of 160 different tables that span across all sorts of telemetry and alerts, which you can which you can use KQL for against that schema. If we go into the next slide. Then, of course, incidents. So now, rather than seeing Defender XDR incidents in Sentinel, we're now going to see Sentinel incidents inside XDR. Yes, you can still go to Sentinel and see all the incidents that come through there if you prefer Sentinel portal and what it does. But obviously, if we truly want to do everything from one screen, this is the place we'll be now, which is our normal incident and alert page of Defender XDR. And we can see now we've got a new service source, which is Microsoft Sentinel. And actually, we can see already how Defender XDR capability of collaborating alerts and telemetry, which Sentinel only was capable of after tuning in, Defender XDR didn't need to, already bringing together alerts and incident. In this case, under this incident that came from Microsoft Sentinel, we can see there's 20 alerts, active alerts that correlate to that. Rather than give you all those many alerts and incidents from one by one, how Sentinel does, it's already brought them all together without needing, because of the powers of Defender XDR. And if we go to the next slide, if we go to the next slide, we can, well, we'll stay on this slide. We can now see it's not just simply Microsoft Sentinel incidents come together, but actually Microsoft Sentinel telemetry within each of the incidents that you will open. So in this case, we can see again a multi-stage incident and lateral movement across endpoints, right? We clicked on the device like we did in the previous demo slideshow, but now we've got an extra tab, which is Microsoft Events. And Microsoft Events means we now take the telemetry that Microsoft Sentinel has collected by using threat intelligence, user anti-behavior analytics, and any other information that Defender XDR didn't do. And we can have that extra information available for us to understand what exactly happened in this incident and why. So now we're not limited anymore by knowledge that only defenders had. We now has all the information and knowledge of Microsoft Sentinel against those entities. And if we go to the next slide. And most important part, it's not a simply incidents and alerts that came together. Pretty much most components of Microsoft Sentinel management has come across as well, which means we don't have to go and apply, enable or disable certain analytical rules or Sentinel. Have a look at some of the workbooks or run some sort of KQL hunting. Everything moved as well into Microsoft XDR. Now, it is important to understand that Microsoft Sentinel is still in the Azure and it's still going to be the source of truth. You will still have to go to that portal when it comes to creation of new analytic rules, creation of your automation and playbooks, because obviously it uses different servers that Microsoft Defender XDR doesn't have, such as KQL builders, such as logic apps. We cannot do logic apps from this portal, but you can do simple management and oversight of your Microsoft Sentinel from Defender XDR right now, because you've got a brand new tab called Microsoft Sentinel. And again, this creates this true unification between the portals. And if we go into the next slide, probably the most exciting out of this, in addition to the tabling schema that all came together, is actually capabilities of Microsoft Defender XDR, which is automatic attack disruption. It's usually worked only against Defender telemetry. Microsoft has now started the process of applying that capability against third-party tools. As it currently stands at the day of the release or this webinar, it only currently works against SAP data and telemetry that coming. But as you can imagine, as the time progresses, Microsoft will be working with all the third-party tools. We'll have this automatic attack disruption capabilities against all sorts of third-party tools. So we're not limited anymore with this amazing technology only to Defender tools. The capability is expanding now, because going back to this idea of true unified security. And of course, Copilot for security. We can see on the right-hand side how exactly it's embedded. You can use it from within Defender XDR, and obviously you can use it against Microsoft Sentinel. And in this case, we ask for incident summary. But obviously, Copilot for security has much greater capability, whether you want next steps of analytics or next steps of using KQL. And then if you want to go to the next slide. Perfect. That was it. Anna, over to you.
Okay, thanks, Alex. I know there's a couple of questions in the Q&A area, which we will pick up towards the end now. I just want to talk to you a little bit about our new product, which is called XDR Rapid Protect. So Cocho have been running XDR using Microsoft Sentinel and Defender for a while, but we've recently launched a new product. So what is Cocho's XDR Rapid Protect. Well, it's an AI-powered security operations tool, which is for Microsoft first organizations. So where you're, using the Microsoft suite, etc., it's very much geared towards those organizations. It provides you with easy onboarding. We've really simplified the onboarding for our clients, particularly when it comes to the Microsoft data connectors. And it means that you can have flexible contracts as well. And you have that real-time reporting and transparency, which I'll briefly go through shortly. So as I said, we've got some unique 30-day rolling contracts because we believe this eliminates the risk and uncertainty of switching to a new MSSP. The way you get the chance to trial and experience our great service before you actually commit to anything else. And the rolling contracts are priced slightly higher rate, but you can commit any time during that 30 days or beyond to a fixed term contract to get the best price. And within the 30-day rolling contracts, you can cancel any time by giving us 1 month's notice. It means that on top of that, then you get the reporting through our new Clearview portal, which is sort of it's new off the shelf. It's taking in all the information from both Microsoft Sentinel and Defender, and then we've applied our skills and expertise on top of that. It's our own IP. It's our own. We have our own SOAR platform as well that layers into your XDR Rapid Protect offering and then complements the functionality you get with Sentinel and Defender. It means that you get those real-time customizable reports across a range of areas. It's presented through Power BI and also with a customized report that we can take you through that sort of monthly reporting cycle as well. The hassle-free onboarding, this is a big thing for me. Onboarding for us used to take anything from 6 weeks plus, and it meant that our clients were sort of waiting to know if they were being covered or not. So a while back, I decided that we needed to change the way we were doing onboarding within SecOps. So now we can onboard. We can set up Sentinel, we can onboard you through Lighthouse, and we can have the monitoring for those key elements of your endpoints and your identity, because obviously identities become that perimeter of your network, and we can do that within 24 hours. So basically that's your Microsoft connectors, the core connectors that are pulled in. There's about 30 minutes of admin time only from yourselves, but it means that we have that rapid deployment framework using ARM templates, and we can then customize and automate the deployment using Azure DevOps. Everything we do with regards to deployment is done through that DevOps pipeline. And because it's powered by AI and our own playbooks as well that we've developed in-house, we're able to execute that sort of automation at machine speed. It means that our response times that are used, things that are normally done in hours can be done in seconds. And there's 24/7 monitoring as well as a nominated SDM that comes with the core offering. So we're a Cardiff-based security operations centre. We've got that 24/7 monitoring and support. There's remediation work as well, which is backed up by our project services team, which is where Alex comes from. And they are leading experts when it comes to Microsoft security products as well. And we have all the accreditations that you could expect from a Microsoft security partner. Service delivery managers would be based in the UK also. It means that we can ensure that consistent relationship based on partnership and trust. Like I said, we are UK based, but with global support. Our Cardiff SOC 24/7, but it's global support. We don't just support clients who have got UK offices. We support across the globe. So yeah. And then how are we different? So I've talked about the real-time Power BI reporting. So this is our product called ClearView, and it basically means it gives you the information you need right there, right now, and it's tailorable, so it can be handed to somebody at C-level or right down to the technical teams. It means that you can articulate risk where you need to, and you can also articulate that return on investment. You get detailed breakdowns of the threat seen in your environment. The dashboards are superb because not only do they surface the information, but because they're Power BI, you can actually click through them and get the underlying raw data as well. So it is absolutely fantastic. There's no risk. Like I said, you've got that 30-day rolling contract to get you started. Means that you're free to move away at any time. And the first 30-day of the managed security service is actually for free. So you get to trial not just Sentinel, but also our service for free for the first 30 days. And like I said, we can protect you within 24 hours. So it's hassle-free onboarding and access to this suite of playbooks for remediation, and it's ready to go. So I'm just going to walk you through a little bit of a demo of ClearView. So as you can see, this is sort of a mock-up for this presentation, but it's been taken from the demo version of the tool. So as you can see, there is an awful lot of information that's contained in it. Yes, some of this information is already available in different workbooks in Sentinel or in certain areas of Defender, but the purpose of this tool is that it brings it all together in one place, and you don't have to go off and look in the different areas. And it also gives you a lot more context as well around what you're seeing. I absolutely love the sign-in count by coordinates map. Yeah, it's, if you work in security, that sort of thing, you know, understanding where your sign-ins are coming from, what's suspicious, what's successful, you know, what's a failure, seeing that in a visual manner makes such a big difference when you're trying to interpret data. Obviously, the device recommendations that get pulled from Defender for Endpoint, it includes that configuration score, exposure score, and software-based remediations and recommendations all within one area. So you're not looking at the different areas within Defender to try and find this information and piece it together. Same with the software vulnerability summary. Somebody mentioned in the QA that the vulnerability side really needs to be highlighted. It certainly does, you know, and this is, you know, ClearView is giving you that information all pulled together, which is really, really good. Recommendations again, and you know, these are presented in a report, and it's the CIS controls that are published from Microsoft 365 environments. Have to say that all this information is also exportable, same as it would be in Defender. So if you need to export it to Excel or somewhere else, you can do in order to be able to use it really effectively. So just a quick view of the pricing tiers for XDR Rapid Protect. So Core is the main one, and this gives you that assisted AI onboarding, so the really fast onboarding, and it comes for free. 24/7 monitoring and XDR, the ClearView extended response automation tools, as well as the Power BI dashboard reporting suite. Data connectors for Core are just the Microsoft ones, and you'll get 3 to 5 cloud-based playbooks, and up to 3 customized analytic rules. Threat intelligence feeds are the basic ones, but they are really good threat intelligence feed even for basic. And then we have advanced and premium, which obviously, you know, advanced gives you a little bit more again. So it's that everything that Core does, but with the Microsoft and Sentinel native, so the out of the box data connectors, full playbook suite that we've developed. The playbook suite is customized, and then unlimited analytic rules above and beyond what we've already customized and what's available in Sentinel, and obviously the standard sort of threat intelligence feeds. And then premium, as you would expect, is more advanced again. So there's 4 easy ways to get going, and there's, you know, no barriers to you actually trialing Microsoft Sentinel and the XDR service. I know somebody was sort of saying they're looking at Sentinel potentially. This is a really good way of having a look, seeing what it looks like, and not having to commit to anything. So Microsoft provide funded Sentinel POCs. This is optional, but it means that you get, I think it's around $8,000 from Microsoft to be able to fund that 30-day sort of proof of concept and the sort of have use of the security operations managed service that we provide. Free 24-hour onboarding, as we've already talked about. This is for the core XDR Rapid Protect tier only. And then your first 30 days free trial and 30-day rolling contracts. No commitment, cancel anytime for the first 6 months. So if you are interested, please do get in touch. More than happy to connect you with the sort of relevant salesperson for your industry. Will be able to walk you through this in a lot more detail and get you set up if you're interested in having a trial. So thank you very much. And yes, if there are questions, please do ask. Alex, we've got one that I've seen earlier, which was, is Entra joined endpoints a prerequisite to reap the benefits of XDR?
Yeah, so I tried to answer as many of those questions as you were doing your bits. But as I said, the device state is irrelevant when it comes to reaping the benefits of XDR, because XDR works across so many different entities. And if for whatever reason we cannot gather as much of alerts from your endpoints because of state of your device, or you're potentially using completely different antivirus solution, it's irrelevant, because we can then use the other defenders for other areas of your business, or potentially get a limited alerting from your devices alongside full alerting of other areas of your organization, in order still to get as much of protection and visibility across your environment. So I guess that's the easiest way to answer it. And I just wanted to answer, because there's a lot of questions there, understanding, oh, do I still pay for Sentinel? What happens to my tables in Sentinel? When we say merger, it's availability of Sentinel and its tables in XDR. Sentinel, the way it works, operates, the way you pay for it stays identical. It does not go away. You will still do everything as you currently do. The only thing this merger provides is the availability of that data. All those 125 tables, whatever you're ingesting to Sentinel, they will just be available in Microsoft Defender XDR. All the capabilities of Sentinel is available, such as workbooks, automation, etc., but they only obviously scope to Sentinel. You'll still go to Azure portal in order to create automation, because it uses Logic Apps, which is Azure service. You can't be using Logic Apps in terms of creation of them from Microsoft XDR portal. So nothing gets deleted, nothing gets edited. It's the availability of entire Sentinel from Microsoft Defender XDR and use of advanced hunting across every single table across your defense system, whether it's XDR or Sentinel. I hope that answers a lot of the questions that I've seen in the chat.
Yeah, I think hopefully, because there's one that sort of asks about, will automation workbook still be the domain of Sentinel? Will it move to XDR? Will you still be able to, or will you still be required to pay for ingestion of data into Sentinel for the purposes of automation? Yeah, log analytics is still going to remain, as far as I'm aware. So yeah,
that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's the availability. It's not a total merger where the portal gets any different or anything. You just do everything from one portal rather than keep moving behind. And again, the most important part, tabling. You're not limited anymore by data. Oh, it's available somewhere else, but not here. No, everything is visible now. 160 tables, no matter where you're ingesting the data from.
Yeah. So that sort of answers is Defender XDR better than Sentinel for monitoring incidents? It's not that one is better than the other. It's just that combined, they give you this much better overview, and having that availability in both makes it just a lot more portable, I guess. That's the way I'd look at it. So, okay, I just double checking that we've gone through all these. Yeah, so what happens to the alerts? Does all Sentinel data?
Time.
Yeah, that's fine. Somebody's asked with regards to sending out the slides, etc. This should be available after the webinar, so we will arrange for anything relating to this to be sent out. So thank you very much, everyone, for your participation today. Sorry, it's maybe run over a little bit, but very much wanted to be able to demonstrate all the good things in Defender and Sentinel and that unified approach to security operations, and also introduce the new XDR Rapid Protect. If you are interested, then please do get in touch, and thank you very much for listening. And I hope you enjoyed mine and Alex's presentation, and look forward to seeing you on another one of these soon. Thanks very much.
Thank you, guys.